So you want to learn Flutter like me? Hey there, this is Akshay and welcome back to a new video, and in this video we are going to discuss a very important topic, that is what are the advantages and disadvantages of learning Flutter. So before we get into that topic, so first of all you need to know what is Flutter. So Flutter is nothing but it's just a beautiful cross-platform software development kit that is provided by Google, using which you can not only make mobile apps but you can also make beautiful web applications. And currently it is also being used to make beautiful 2D games, right? And you can also use a 3D plugin, 3D Unity plugin to make 3D games. So that's totally amazing. But before you start learning Flutter, or if you are still learning Flutter, you should also know what are the pros and cons, and let's get started with the first topic, that is advantages of learning Flutter. So first of all, you need to know that Flutter is open source. So as it is open source, obviously the community will be bigger, right? Because you don't need to pay anything to use Flutter. You can directly go on the internet, search for Flutter.dev, download the SDK, install it and start making apps. And if it is open source, that also means that anybody can come on the GitHub repository, they can contribute, they can solve the issues. That means the issues will be solved fastly, new features, new plugins will be added fastly, right? So the first advantage of using Flutter is that it is open source. Second advantage is faster development. Flutter, as you know that in React Native you have a hot reload, the same feature we have in Flutter also. So when you are making an app and you make some change, you hit Ctrl S and it will on the spot show you the change in the emulator also. So it increases the speed of development. So we can say that the hot reload feature that Flutter has provided us has increased the speed of development, right? So this was the second advantage of using Flutter, that is you get a hot reload feature. Third advantage that we're talking about, and it's not just the advantage of using Flutter, but you can get this advantage in any cross-platform SDK. So as I'm talking about cross-platform, so what is this cross-platform? So it means that you can use a single code base. You have written one feature in one Dart language and you can use the same feature to deploy that code in Android, in iOS, in web. So this is called cross-platform. That means you're building a feature once and you're using the same code base, single code base to deploy at different platforms, right? So this was the third advantage of using Flutter, that is it is cross-platform, or you can use single code base to deploy to multiple platforms. The next advantage or pro of Flutter we can consider is that you can use Flutter to build beautiful user interfaces, right? You get a lot of inbuilt features, bottom nav bar, the side drawers, the navigation bars, then alert dialog boxes, Cupertino dialog boxes, and you can also build iOS specific features, that is the Cupertino. There are two major UI libraries in Flutter, that is Material UI and Cupertino UI. So if you are only making the app for iOS, then you can use Cupertino library, and you can make the apps that will have the same look and feel that iOS apps have, right? Or you can use platform specific code that you can write if platform is Android, if platform is iOS, then you can render different codes, right? So you can give different look and feel to your apps based on the platform that you want to deploy to, right? So this is the next advantage of Flutter, that it provides the advantage of, or it provides the liberty of making platform specific UIs or beautiful UIs, or it tries to improve the user experiences based on the platforms, right? So this is the next advantage of using Flutter. Talking about the next advantage, it is easier to learn. Anyone can learn Flutter in the 6 months phase, and I'm not talking about that you will become an expert of Flutter in the 6 months. Obviously you have to do a lot of internships, you have to get some job experience to get to that level, but obviously you can reach to a stage where you can say that, hey, I can build an e-commerce solution, hey, I can build a social media application in the 6 months. So there is a proper timeline of learning Flutter in the first 6 months, where you can build some to-do apps, you can build calculator apps, you can build social media application UIs, you can clone WhatsApp, Netflix, Instagram, Facebook, and with all these phases added up, you can become interview ready or you can become job ready in the first 6 months. So we can say that Flutter is very easier to learn, and because Flutter uses Dart, right? And Dart is nothing but OOP language, object-oriented programming language. And obviously if you are learning a coding framework, that is Flutter, obviously you have learned OOP principles first, or you are comfortable with DSA concepts or OOP concepts, right? So Dart is nothing different from OOP. It uses same OOP principles: encapsulation, polymorphism, inheritance, abstraction. So if you know all these things, then you can already start building in Flutter, because Flutter obviously uses a OOP language. So this was the next advantage of using Flutter, that it's the base language of Flutter, which is Dart, which is again provided by Google, is no different from an OOP paradigm language, right? Talking about the last advantage that we're going to talk about in this video about Flutter is that it is native compatible. So let's say you are a company and you want to build your own plugin. Obviously you can download plugins and packages from pub.dev. So as you're a company, as you're a big startup, you don't want to depend yourself on plugins and packages built by other people, right? So that's why you wanted to build your own plugins. So obviously if you're talking about plugins here, then you have to code in native languages, that is Kotlin in Android or Objective-C or Swift in the iOS, right? So Flutter provides features to make your code compatible with the native plugins. So you can use platform channels using which you can set up a communication between your Flutter code and a native code. So this was again the next big advantage of learning Flutter, building apps using Flutter, right? Now it's time to talk about the cons of Flutter. Being a Flutter developer, I don't feel actually good to talk about it, but it's the topic, right? Let's talk about it and let's face the truth. So talking about the cons of Flutter, first con is that larger app sizes. So if you make a same app in native, you will be building it for just Android. If you're making an app for iOS, you will be making it in only for the iOS. The code files will only be for iOS, not for Android, right? But if you talk about a cross-platform framework, that is React Native or Flutter, then we have to have both the code structures, both the code files, code folders in the same app compressed zip, right? So that's why the app size comparatively is larger if you are making a cross-platform app or than if you are making a native app, right? So the first disadvantage of using Flutter or any cross-platform framework, not just Flutter, is that the app size is comparatively larger than the native app size, right? So if we talk about the next con of using Flutter or developing using Flutter, is that Flutter is comparatively newer. So if we talk about the direct competitor of Flutter, that is React Native, which is by Facebook. It was launched in around 2014 year. So, and React Native also uses JavaScript. So as we know that around 50% of the Stack Overflow is covered by JavaScript language or JavaScript developers. So obviously the support, the number of plugins, packages, and the open source community is bigger if we talk about React Native. And if we talk about Flutter, then it was launched in 2017. So there are a lot of libraries and packages and support, but not as much as React Native. So this is again a con of Flutter on which we should definitely put light on. Next con, if we talk about Flutter, is the learning curve. So as Flutter is using Dart, then developers have to learn a new programming language. Yes, it is. I told that it is just an OP language. It's not that much effort, but obviously a new syntax you have to keep in mind. And on the other hand, if you talk about React Native, it uses JavaScript. So obviously the people who are already web developers, backend developers, or they were coding in HTML, CSS and JavaScript, they already know the base language, that is JavaScript. They don't need to learn a new programming language from the start. They don't need to learn a new syntax from the start. But if you talk about Flutter, you have to learn a new programming language. You have to be aware in the Dart community. You have to be aware with the new versions, new updates that Dart community is bringing, right? So again, this can be a con that you have to learn a new programming language, whereas in React Native you are already compatible, you are already comfortable with JavaScript. As if you have learned JavaScript, then obviously we'll try to think of doing both front end and back end. So you're already comfortable with JavaScript, but here you have to learn a new programming language. So this is the next con of learning Flutter. So I hope that this video was helpful for you, and if you haven't taken a decision to learn Flutter or not, I hope this video will help you take a decision. And that's it. Till next content, keep coding, keep innovating, and thanks a lot.